So we're back with this again. Let's get into it, shall we?
Hi.
Sorry there, Lando, I couldn't quite see what just happened in the last 1.5 seconds, so I'd like to have a bit of a rewind to that point. So we have the 99, 98, and 01 car or something, there's flashes of the other cars, and that's about it. Great.
I'm Lando Norris. I'm part of the McLaren Young Driver program, and I currently race in the FIA Formula 3.
I'm sorry, but again, Cody's, what the fuck just happened in the last, 2 seconds? For fuck's sake, I'm gonna need to rewind that bit again. So we have the 91 car a couple of times, we have that one, we have this one, and we have that one.
I've had the pleasure of driving some of the classic Formula 1 cars, especially some from the Senna era.
You know, Prost drove that as well.
Which, for any motorsport fan, is one of the cars that everyone wants to drive.
You know, personally, I really wouldn't want to drive a MP4-4. Honestly, I would much rather drive a 1987 Yugo. It's just pure sex. I'm sorry, but what is this pleb version of Suzuka? I mean, what is that?
Suzuka is definitely a very tricky track, especially the first section, so...
Yeah, especially the first section, you know, that section that you can only drive at the Suzuka short circuit.
Experiencing it in all these different cars, I think it's probably one of the best tracks you could actually back-to-back all these McLaren Formula 1 cars.
Am I the only one that finds it funny that the MCL 32 has the number 13 on it, which is commonly, 13 is usually associated as an unlucky number? That might just be me. I think that's quite funny.
One big change for the 2017 car is the downforce and the tyres, obviously. The biggest advantages you get from that is braking distances and cornering speed, especially high-speed corners. Well, I think the 2017 cars have obviously set a lot of lap records and track records this year, so it'll be cool to see how much faster or slower the cars are from several years ago.
So Lando here is talking about how much faster or slower the older cars could be in comparison to the 2017 car. My estimation would probably be slower, since you did state that these cars have broken many records this season. I swear this guy must be stupid. Hey, it's that car that Alain Prost drove.
I struggle a lot more on traction on this car. It's a lot more difficult to control the car in both the high speed and slow speed corners. A H-box is a lot more difficult than using the paddle shifts you have nowadays. It's quite fun at the same time.
Oh look, it's that car that Gerhard Berger drove.
Powered delivery, so exit of corners, is a slight improvement compared to the old Senna car.
You know, Senna did have teammates.
It's a bit more controllable on exits. Downforce seems already slightly better than what the older one did. This one was definitely a bit nicer to drive. It already feels like a bit of a step between the old car and the 2017 car.
Of course you would expect a step between the two cars because there's a 26-year difference between them.
But again, it's a very enjoyable car to drive.
I could have sworn there was sponsorship there.
Definitely a cool car. I can tell top speed is slightly faster. I think just about hitting 305 kilometers an hour, which is obviously pretty fast. Even not one of the longest straights. Braking distances and general cornering speeds are slightly higher, and that's where lap time is being taken away from the older cars.
You know, I can't be the only one that absolutely loves technical Norris. You know, I'm just going to skip this car because I just know the Hamilton fanboys is just going to be all over this thing, so I ain't going to touch this shit.
I would say that the car I'd like to drive most is Ayrton Senna's 1988 McLaren.
You know, Prost drove that car too.
I think that it's a car that's most different to what I've probably ever driven before.
A car that's most different to that you have ever driven before. You haven't quite driven the MP4-4 though. You've played it on a Codemasters game.
Getting to experience a H-pattern box as well. It's probably a car I think most motorsport drivers would want to drive at one point in their career.
Honestly, I wouldn't have thought that Sebastian Vettel would want to drive an MP4-4 in his career. I think he would much rather spend his Saturday afternoons in a 1987 Yugo.